Any second now. And it appears Wes has started, and so has David. So we are underway.
Alright, so this is the 90% category. So for those of you not familiar with the character, Specter Knight is one of the Order of No Quarter from Shovel Knight's campaign. He has shorter jumps than Shovel Knight. He can do some homing attacks that I like to call them. Some other people call them different things. He can climb up walls for a short period and also kick off of them.
So Wes is going to be grabbing this first red skull at the beginning, and so is David. The red skulls can basically be used to buy extra weapons that are basically the main focus of this run. Those extra weapons, the Skeletal Sentry and Bounding Soul, both provide a lot of time save on, especially on boss fights, but in other areas as well. So in a couple stages, we'll be seeing both runners pick up their main weapon. Plains is a relatively straightforward stage, done with no upgrades. So Spectre just kind of goes through all this tutorial stuff to teach you how to play the game, and then the next level flying machine will be a lot more difficult. Coming up pretty soon, there will be a chest with a health upgrade in it, and let's see if the runners decide to go for it. Wes is going for it, and David is actually skipping it, saving a bit of time, but he is going to be on a much more dangerous route without that extra health. A lot of rooms in this game can be extremely scary on low health, so we may be seeing David having to heal more than Wes.
Not just rooms, but some of those bosses can be very deadly. But with a runner like David with a 44 and his SSPB, may not be a problem. We'll see what he does as he goes on.
So now David and Wes are both entering the Black Knight fight, and this is a pretty straightforward fight. They're basically just going to be bouncing him in between that second waterfall from the right there. They're basically going to be bouncing in between that waterfall and the wall. So it's a pretty straightforward stun lock. The timing's pretty easy, but it can still be it can still waste quite a bit of time if either runner messes it up. So David getting a pretty good fight, and Wes got the exact same fight, so that's cool.
Yeah, just like a couple of pixels to the left on either one. That's pretty good.
And now both runners are synced up with their timers, so that's pretty cool. And now both runners are going to be heading to the Flying Machine, normally a late game stage in the other two playable characters' campaigns, but Specter Knight any % runners always go to it first because of the weapon that can be acquired after it and the amount of money in it. And we actually just saw Wes deposit some of his money in Manny, who will sell armor, which he has to be unlocked first with money, and then you have to buy armor from him, and they'll be buying the rail mail. So he basically spent extra money there so that in case he dies in this stage, he won't have to pay extra after, and so it's a bit of a safety strat for races.
Yeah, so this stage can also be dangerous because you're also going, like the plains, with no items except for the health upgrades you may or may not get. Death can definitely happen, especially considering that you're breaking some checkpoints to get extra money. So I can understand what Wes's strategy is here. Just hoping that they both have a clean propeller night stage here.
This stage has quite a few scary rooms, especially without any upgrades.
Okay, David's coming up to the mini-boss, which he's going to try to juggle some bombs here to do extra damage and get him down before he starts moving into the middle platform.
He actually missed the first bomb, so he's going to have to hit the thing a few more times. But he got a pretty great fight anyways. And Wes got a really good fight as well. So now they're both coming up on the first auto-scroller, and at the end of this auto-scroller, there's a wind cycle that both runners have to make, where basically there's a it's about the wind tunnel brass.
Yeah, and David may get it. His music got to the point at the beginning of the screen, so they want it to loop right at the end of this screen, so David might get it.
The reason they want it to loop at the end of the screen is because there is a fan that will blow Specter Knight to the next room right after this auto-scroller, and it can actually stop, and when it does stop, the runner will have to wait for it to restart, and that can waste a couple seconds. So to be optimal, you want to be on fast enough pace to make said cycle, but not too fast that you have to wait.
Oh, man.
So David did not make the cycle, and Wes opted to get some extra money above it, and he had to wait a little bit, but getting the money actually made it so he didn't have to wait very long. And oh no!
Wes, no.
Wes basically had to get an extra skull. He had to get that skull for the ending percent route, and he missed it. And then he missed the wind fan, which is very unfortunate. Now he has to do the entire auto-scroller again, which is pretty long. So David is definitely ahead right now.
Yeah, Benajawas is giving him a bad day, but he gets through it at least without a death. Wes will at least be a minute, if not more, behind from this death. So we'll see what he does to catch up, see if he does any risky strats here.
His money's in kind of an inconvenient spot too, so we'll be seeing if he can get it all back or not. So David is entering the Propeller Knight fight.
So basically, they're going to try to maximize the amount of hits to get before the floor breaks, and then end on the left side of the sun to get the quick kill to happen. Gets 9 hits, pretty decent.
He went for an extra hit, something that at the end there when Propeller Knight was flying up, which is pretty interesting. He didn't actually get it, but he is getting a pretty nice quick kill on Propeller right now. Wes finally making it out of the first auto-scroller. Let's see what he does to get his money back. He's able to get one bag. You're going to have to break some checkpoints in other stages or something to make it up. He needs at least 5,400 by the end of this stage to be able to buy the rail mail.
Actually, I think he'll need a little less because I think he used Manny.
Oh yeah, you're right. He did use Manny, so he will. He'll need a bit less than that.
Yeah, so he might see what happens. David just got Judgment Rush, so he used his Curios, his Red Skull. Wow, that was bad English. He used his Red Skulls to buy the Curio, and that allows him to lock onto enemies across the screen and go through levels much quicker. He goes to Manny, buys the Rail Mail, which allows you to skate and increases your momentum. Going on to his next stage. So in the Explodatorium, he's going to try to go fast, but not too fast in order to get the correct cycles so he doesn't have to wait like he did on the fan cycles. And we'll see how he does, getting a good opening. And at the end of the stage, he'll be able to purchase the Bounding Soul. Wes dealing with Repeller.
Wes actually is getting a pretty great fight right now. He got 10 initial hits, and he did kind of an interesting dash slash at the beginning that Propeller Knight didn't even react to.
Yeah, Wes...
He did his normal attacks as if he wasn't hit. So he got basically an 11-hit first opening, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Wes was one of the first people to find the 13-hit Propeller Knight fight at the beginning of this first phase. David getting a good cycle here.
These pots can waste quite a bit of time in an area that David already passed. So now Wes has the Judgment Rush, and let's see what stage he decides to go to next, the Lich Yard or the Explodatorium. Barely has enough money for Rail Mail. It's a good thing he deposited money in Manny, or else he would be kind of up a creek right now. So he is going to go to the Explodatorium, so both runners are confirmed to be on the Bounding Soul route.
Okay, David doing a nice execution, at least in the beginning of the Alchemist fight. That's actually harder to do than it looks, just turning your rail around so you can hit him a lot.
Turning the rail around while still attacking is actually extremely challenging.
I guess the scythe would probably be a better term to use.
Oh yeah, duh.
Yeah, we can't English right now, sorry friends.
It's late. So David's coming up on near the last room of the Explodatorium. Having a bit of trouble with that gold armor there. Let's see what kind of pot cycle Wes gets. Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Was
whoa.
above.
That was a really interesting strat. I didn't know that was possible.
I like it. Hey, David's going to Plague Knight, which is hard in this level, this stage because of the lack of items. So you basically have to do it low percent and hope that Plague Knight cooperates with his clones, hoping to hit the right one. Which he is.
The way that the runners can tell which Plague Knight is the real Plague Knight is that the real Plague Knight actually has a tiny difference, which is a blue flask instead of a red flask. But the fight is still really challenging on the Bounding Soul route because he jumps all over the place and he's pretty random. So now David's entering the first memory stage.
You have Donovan traveling with his companion Luan. So basically just going through the stage, getting some money, and that's about it. Wes getting a decent kill on the Alchemist, now going through the fire cycles. Here, going too fast can actually cause you to get too much damage and not enough time gain, so sometimes waiting is a good idea, but he's getting a good cycle so far.
All of the money that David is collecting currently in this short little memory sequence is actually going to carry over into the main game. So even though he doesn't have any of his upgrades, he will still have all the money he just collected. So now Wes approaching the Plague Knight fight.
Interesting. Okay, so David getting the Bounding Soul, which basically ricochets. Ooh. Ricochets off walls, and unfortunately that happened.
He went for interesting strat where you damage boost off of that skeleton instead of attacking it, but he missed it and it died, but that's not that bad of a death to take.
And you lose no money on those sub-dungeons, so that's okay.
It's just a little bit of time lost, and he's quite a bit ahead of Wes, so he'll be fine.
And Plague down on Wes's screen. Pretty decent fight from him.
So now both runners are going to be heading to the Lost City with an unupgraded Bounding Soul. This is the only stage that they're going to be doing with the Bounding Soul not upgraded. When not upgraded, the Bounding Soul is actually pretty weak. You can only send 2 out at a time, and when they hit enemies, they disappear. They don't phase through them. But when it is upgraded, you can send 4 out at a time, and it phases through enemies and can bounce and get extra hits. So it's an extremely powerful weapon, and it makes quick work of all of the bosses.
David getting the nice double slash there. He's going for some really nice strats here, really risky ones, but really executing them well.
Very interesting use of the birder to get past there.
I dig it.
Wes is seeing that he's a bit behind on money from his previous deaths and opting to collect that chest, which is not a bad move. He's basically not going to have to worry about money at all for the rest of the run after collecting that chest. Because he is now ahead of the money he needs instead of behind. Smart move on David's part, opting to get that checkpoint. In a race situation, skipping checkpoints can basically be the difference between a win and a loss.
So David just did what's called a Judgment Rush stall. You can use Judgment Rush while you're climbing to get extra height on your wall climb.
Nice save with the Judgment Rush there. Let's see how David decides to get through this room.
Alright, he does the low percent strat and does successfully. He's heading into a Mole Knight fight. Mole Knight's gonna dash across the screen a couple of times, so you're trying to throw the Bounding Souls out to maximize damage and slash him. Then you're gonna wait a little bit when he gets to the right side of the screen, and not hit him too soon, so he can stay on the right side of the screen.
Wes now coming up on Beetle 1. Let's see how he deals with this challenging segment. Opting for the Judgment Rush strat.
Okay, David's going to be upgrading his Bounding Soul, and then going to be fighting the first version of Dark Rhys. Can you tell us about that guy?
This fight is, it's just done in the lobby of the tower, and it's a lot faster on the Bounding Soul route than on the Skeletal Sentry route, because Rhys likes to go in places where the Skeletal Sentry can't hit him, because the Skeletal Sentry can basically only hit things on the floor, but the Bounding Soul can bounce everywhere, so the Bounding Soul makes this fight a lot more consistent.
He was successfully making it through that section without a checkpoint before it, thankfully.
Rhys can be pretty random. He likes to teleport and go off the screen, actually, where you can't hit him, which wastes quite a bit of time.
Oh, Wes going for the fast strat on the Verter, but doesn't quite get it, but is able to get back up anyway.
So Rhys is now in his, final attack. And David getting a pretty solid kill on Rhys.
Okay, Wes doing a good combination of risky and then safe strats, just so he doesn't lose any more time, but then can gain some time on some faster strats. He's heading into his Mole Knight fight, while David is heading into the Treasure Knight stage.
That was an interesting checkpoint to break. He's way over budget now.
Yeah, and Mole Knight down. He does a good eel room on David's part. You can slash through the blocks because of the programming, which is nice. Getting a decent pattern there. Just okay, Wes is going to head into his upgrade and head into his Rhys fight. David's going to head into his Megaman 2 part of the stage where 420 Fish will be kind of following him, and then he's going to be fighting that mini boss.
Yeah, 420 Fish, also known as the Tithalon, is he's a pretty challenging mini-boss, especially in the Skeletal Sentry route. His weak spot is in that chest, which will open up once he gets to the end of the auto-scroller.
No.
Oh no!
That is unfortunate, but at least the checkpoint's right before it. Not too much time lost.
You can see he threw a Bounding Soul there at the end because he thought if he had Judgment Rush selected instead of the Bounding Soul, he actually would have been able to rush one of those fish or the chest on 420 Fish's Angler, and he would have been able to save himself. So he's going to be trying to collect this money with his Bounding Souls. Very nicely done.
And with the Darkness Terror, doesn't worry about a quick kill here. Let's see if he can line up his shots, which he does. At least for the first wave. The second wave didn't land, but he's down anyway.
420 Fish's movements are pretty random, so getting a good fight when the strat is done correctly can be up to chance.
Okay, Wes now entering the stage. He got the Snail Parade. Doesn't get the damage boost part of it, but he definitely got the first opening of it. David heading into the Bertha room. She is dangerous because she can deal 2 damage to So you're just trying to hope that she doesn't hit you. Only anchors can kill her, or another weapon that you don't get in this route.
David's actually having a bit of trouble right here. I think he's going to be bouncing off of Bertha to get back in, and he does.
Okay, and he gets a checkpoint. I hope he gets to health after this room.
Treasure Knight is a pretty quick fight.
Good, he picked up on that.
Treasure Knight's a pretty quick fight, but he can actually deal a full heart of damage with his anchor attack.
And he will because of the damage boost and the quick kill.
Yeah, so if David hadn't healed there, he would have just tried to do that damage boost and immediately died.
That was a great fight.
So now Wes dealing with 420 fish. He's doing kind of a different strat. Still gets the one cycle though. So now David is buying his first darkness upgrade, which will let him send out more bounding souls and use Judgment Rush more. And that is the second to last darkness upgrade that David and Wes will both be buying.
Okay, Wes using a good use of the bounding soul to get that switch to happen. David heading into the Lich Yard, home of future home, or slash current home of Specter Knight.
Since he is Specter Knight, he will be fighting the Phantom Striker at the end of this level, who is a relatively easy boss, especially on this route.
It's just fun to watch.
So Wes actually opting to wait for the anchor to kill Bertha before trying to go in that more dangerous ending segment. Pretty good strat.
Okay, he misses that checkpoint, so I hope that the missile room goes well. David having good movement on this stage. Wes getting a decent kill. He moved a little to the right after getting the damage boost, so some of the shots missed, but Treasure Knight goes down quickly.
Lich Yard, being the short stage that it is actually almost over on David's end, and he'll be in the Phantom Striker fight shortly. And so basically, David will be trying to bounce as many basketballs or bounding souls on the Phantom Striker in the corner of the stage as he can. Oh no, some of the bounding souls actually flew out, so he won't be getting the optimal kill here.
Still, half of the health on the first round. That's a very quick kill compared to some other routes you can do. Ooh, and he gets the nice dribble there.
So now David is going to be entering the second memory stage before he can do any of the other main stages. This second memory is pretty interesting because of two things. One is the Shield Knight fight at the end, and the other is this beginning segment where Luan, Donovan's partner right here, can actually just either walk forwards all the way or stall and waste a second. So let's see how Luan decides to go. And he did go the fastest way. So good RNG for David. Now the rest of the stage is relatively straightforward. He'll be using his caltrops to push enemies out of the way and doing some tricky platforming. And then he will be fighting Shield Knight, who's a pretty challenging boss, especially since the only weapon David has at his disposal is the caltrops.
Yeah, so basically you'll see them trying to see if they'll use it to bounce off her shield at the beginning. Hope that she lands on some, and then damage her behind her big, huge shield, or hit her a lot when she throws it.
When Shield Knight has her big shield, she actually can't be hit at all from the front, but she does throw it, so when she throws the shield, she can be hit from the front. He actually misspaced a little bit, missed a lot of those hits on one of the big openings of the Shield Knight fight.
Come on, David.
He's very low health. It's looking like he's going to die here. But he could clutch it out.
Does he have a Caltrop? Oh, no, he does not have a Caltrop. That sometimes you can die, but a sub-weapon can kill an enemy, and then you live. That unfortunately doesn't happen. So David's back onto the fight again. Phantom Striker down on Wes's screen. Nice job. Wes heading into the memory next. Let's see how he fares.
David getting a much better fight on his second round. That was a pretty great fight. He got 3 hits in basically 1 second at the end there with those Caltrops and the Dash Slash. Nailing the Luan quick kill.
Oh man, you went there.
So let's see if Luan decides to give Wes good RNG here.
And no. He's such a good bro.
So he did have to wait a little bit. Again, it's not significant time loss. It's just purely random, so runners kind of fixate on it.
While Wes is finishing up the memory heading into Shield Knight, David starts the Clockwork Tower. Basically the same as the Skeletal Sentry Route Clockwork Tower. You just don't need to get any skulls. So let's see how he does here. It's a pretty long stage with 2 auto-scrollers and lots of hazards. And the checkpoints are just out of the way. So hopefully they both fare well on this stage. Did Wes get the checkpoint?
Wes did not actually get the checkpoint, so if he dies here, he's going to have to go back quite a bit. But he does have the extra health.
And gets Sealing to the face. Come on, come on, come on.
Ooh, he misspaced his hits there, just like David did in his first fight.
Shield Knight just doesn't want to get hit there, I guess. Hey! Wes, nice, first try. And you got the real boss, the pause menu. David's on the auto-scroller of fun.
Yeah, Tinker Knight stage is pretty long, purely for the fact that it has 2 auto-scrollers.
It's auto-scroller tower, it's not Clockwork Tower. Alright, Wes getting his upgrade early.
He was a bit over budget.
Which could be an advantage.
Too. Yeah, that can actually help out a lot. That can help out a lot, especially on Tinker Knight's fight.
Yeah,
having the extra magic gives him some room for error.
And at this point in the run, you don't have to worry about money terribly much. Okay, Wes.
So now David is at the end of the first auto-scroller. Opting to get that checkpoint there, which is a pretty smart move because it's pretty much the fastest checkpoint to get in this whole stage outside of the one before the boss, since most of them are pretty out of the way.
Okay, David giving me a little scare, almost getting, like, sure he was fine, but definitely scared me about almost getting crushed.
So now David using the Judgment Rush to skip some rooms and baiting the gold armor to let him skip a segment of that room. Now he is in the second auto-scroller, while Wes is going to be coming up on the first auto-scroller.
Isn't that a silver armor?
Despite the color of their armor being different, they're actually all still called gold armors.
Oh man.
There's all different kinds of gold armors throughout the levels. They use different relics and their color of their armor changes depending on the relic and the stage that they're using.
Just like Specter's mail changes if he goes left or right. Very subtly, it'll change red or blue.
So now David entering the Tinker Knight fight. Tell us a bit about Tinker Knight.
Okay, so Tinker Knight is going to have on his gear, and it's basically almost like a joke on the players that have been used to killing him very quickly in previous campaigns. He's actually dangerous because he can deal tons of damage with his random wrenches and his tower. So basically using Bounding Soul, you can kill him a bit faster and try to kill him on the right like David just did, which allows you to travel up with him as he floats and start the fight very safely. And using Bounding Soul, you're going to try to maximize damage. In previous routes, you would use Judgment Rush to deal with him in this final phase. Doing a really decent job with this, he gets a great kill on Tinker Knight 1 and 2.
He got quite a few great hits, especially in the beginning there.
Yeah, and it's harder than it looks. I mean, you have to throw a soul and then grab him before he's too far to the left or right. Because if you miss, you have to wait for his mech to let you get up there.
The limited darkness also makes it harder because when you fall down, if you're out of darkness, you won't be able to Judgment Rush him to get back up. So you'll have to wait, essentially, for the mech to shoot missiles that send you back up. So Wes is actually going to have a bit of an easier time, especially if he misses some Bounding Souls here. He has a bit of a failsafe with that extra darkness.
You say hi to Baz and wait a second.
Just got to break all the windows.
Just all the windows. We just, the Enchantress just can't have nice things. Sorry.
So now David is entering King Knight stage, and he actually missed that first rush. He wasn't close enough to that beetle before he got it.
And getting 2 random hits. And you'll notice he got some health right now. Later on in the run, you get some of the more dangerous fights to really the final fights. So I can understand that.
Yeah, it's actually faster to buy that extra health, which is only the extra health from gold from the plains is only 1,000 gold. So it's not that much extra money, especially on this route where money isn't really an issue in the late game. So when you're buying your last darkness, it's way faster to just buy the health with it than to get it in the plains.
David doing a good job on the book skip. Tinker giving Wes a little trouble on the left, but he was able to get it to happen. Now he's doing a nice job with the second phase for sure, going back and forth, using a good combination of his curios and the extra darkness to deal with. Really nice adaptability there, Wes.
Yeah, despite the fight not going perfectly, he never really fell down. So that was a pretty cool fight just for the fact that it didn't go perfectly and he still made it work. So now David entering the first books room of the run, using the Bounding Soul to trigger that big book to make the small platforms appear.
Oh, unfortunately misses the rush, but that'll cost him a little time. Now he has to wait for those pots to fall. You're just a few pixels off. I mean, it sounds really silly when you talk about pixels, but it can count. Onto the King Knight fight. Can you tell us about King Knight and how awesome his cards are?
So King Knight in this campaign is much more challenging than in the other campaigns. He's basically random, especially with that platform layout that he makes. And if he decides to jump into a pit, he can actually fly up and waste quite a bit of time. But David had an amazing fight right there. He killed him really, really fast. That was awesome.
No King Fetty for him. Alright, Wes dealing with Paul Blart right now, as Mumu likes to call him, and doesn't totally sneak by him. Let's see how he fares with the first book room. David is skipping through some cutscene. Goes for the Judgment Rush strat, but doesn't get it, so just goes for the normal walkthrough of the room. That's unfortunate, but again, he's adapting to what's happening.
So now, David entering Polar Knight stage, which is going to be his last main stage, last Order of No Quarter stage for the run. And this stage has rails that actually Spectre has to grind on, even without his rail mail. The blue ones send him right, and the red ones send him left. and there's actually switches throughout the stage that will be switching the directions of that. So we'll be seeing David attempting to use the Bounding Soul to hit those switches and save a bit of time.
That gold armor just does not... It's like Gandalf right there.
You shall not pass.
You get 1,000 points for getting that reference.
He passed anyway, and now he's in the fight with the big bird boss.
Well, Balrog lets him pass, you know. Doesn't... I guess Balrog lets him pass. Right, yeah.
So he got the one cycle on the big bird. Now he's having a bit of trouble with the switches.
I don't know why.
Opting
It just
for the-
scare me when they do that. I know it's safe, but it doesn't look safe.
Yeah, he's basically using when he bonks on the wall right there on the spikes. He's basically railing on the spikes, which Spectre can do without dying. So he's railing on the spikes and then hitting the wall and using the knockback from hitting the wall to not die. So it looks pretty scary, but it's relatively safe.
Bounding souls everywhere. Yeah, it's a really nice fight on Wes's side as well. That trick is much harder than it looks, and he just adapted like crazy to not get killed by the spikes and using the rail mail. Really nice job on that, David.
So now Wes in the third memory, but third memory is just a cutscene, not a level, so he's skipping it. And now he will be entering Polar Night stage. So David basically a full level ahead of Wes right now, but anything can still happen, especially since the most challenging stage is coming up soon.
Okay, so Polar Knight has a big arena, so you're basically going to try to get some hits before he starts the snow shovel, and he... I don't know how that happened, but he stopped railing.
So David not getting the quick kill on Polar, but he got a pretty good fight. Went pretty fast. He killed him before he did his big jump attack, which wasted a bit of time.
I mean, they are a stage behind, but really, these are two short stages, these last two ones. So, really, like you said, anything can happen as we head into the Tower of Fate. Interesting.
Wes opting for kind of a different strat on the big bird. He didn't get the one cycle, but he did get the ladder skip using the bird's rainbow platform. So interesting strat from Wes.
David heading into the Tower of Fate, Tower 1. Really fun stage in my opinion. One of my favorite stages to play. Basically takes all the elements of the game and just puts them in front of you and sees what you can do with them. Getting a great book skip there.
The rest of the stages have to be relatively simple because any of the stages could be a player's first stage, but this stage is only unlocked after all 8 of them are done, so it's a big difficulty spike. David now in the Crusher section, and he's getting a pretty good Crusher skip right now. Going for the fastest cycle on the Crushers. Let's see if he can make it. Having a bit of trouble there with the ending slash, but he did make it. Not very much time lost there.
Skater guy not giving Wes a bad day, but he's on his way to Polar Night. Let's see how he fares against that boss. David heading into the final Bertha room of the game.
Let's see if he decides to use the blue lantern or bounce off of Bertha. He's going for the risky strat. He bounced off of Bertha. Very impressive.
David getting a good... Oh, sorry, Wes getting a nice skate there and a really nice kill off of Polar Knight. And now David on one of the best auto-scrollers of gaming. Not biased at all.
This final auto-scroller has a bit of an interesting trick at the end, where if David can get to the ladder, to the top of the ladder at the end before the scrolling stops, he can actually skip a bit of the scrolling. So let's see if he goes for that strat.
Basically, once the boss health bar hits Spectre's head and you rail and jump, that's a good lineup.
And he did go for the auto-scroller skip, so that was pretty cool. Now he's in the final rail room.
And to Black Knight. Can you tell us about Black Knight and his good pal Terrapin?
Black Knight is a fantastic boss.
Fantastic.
Probably the hardest boss in the game, especially in a speedrun scenario. He likes to fly up on Terrapin where you can't hit him without a lot of difficulty. And David's actually going on for an aerial fight. Oh, never mind. He is knocking Black Knight off of Terrapin, going for the grounded fight. A bit slower, but a bit easier than the aerial fight.
I'm not sure if that was his intent, just based on how he started, but he's definitely making it seem like this, like we said, is what he wanted to go for. Wes missing the Crusher skip, unfortunately, on the left, so he'll have to wait a little bit and just chill out.
Absolutely fantastic Black Knight fight from David. I don't know if he intended it to go that way, but he did basically a hybrid of the ground and the air fights, and it was pretty great.
David could potentially PB by a minute or two here if he has a really nice end of the game. He's heading into the Tower of Hera, or Tower 2, and you're going to see exactly why I call it that right now. For all you Zelda rando fans on speed gaming.
He's actually going to be using that 5th block segment to skip the rest of it. The blocks disappear before they hit the top of the screen, so he slashed to get up there and basically was safe from all of them. Getting a bit of a glitchy strat right there to skip part of that room. Now this level is basically just going to be a big long elevator ride until the final bosses, the Enchantress and Nightmare Rhys.
And the Enchantress can be dangerous because everything she does except her fire platforms deal a full damage, and she just teleports, or not teleports, dashes to the top and bottom of the screen. So you're just hoping to get her down really fast before she can get underneath. Missing the shots a little bit here, unfortunately, so he's going to go a little slower. Wes heading into the approach to the Black Knight fight. We'll see how he deals with Black Knight.
David definitely is ahead of Wes, but depending on how Wes's Black Knight goes and how David's Enchantress goes, Wes can actually make up quite a bit of time. It's still very much anyone's game. David going for some risky strats there, hitting the Enchantress below the stage. Only one hit left.
No,
Ooh.
One hit on Specter as well, and unfortunately she gets to hit on him. And David's going to have to start that fight again, which might allow Wes to start to catch up a little bit more.
That's actually a pretty common death that I see, where people try and bounce off of her and then get hit on the recoil that she does.
Doesn't get the initial volley again, unfortunately. Wes, I keep missing his names today, but Wes is getting a really nice Black Knight fight. Unfortunately, when he gets half of a health, he gets back on Terrapin, which can just be a big problem to deal with and waste some time, like you're noticing right now, unfortunately.
None of his Bounding Souls actually hit Black Knight, which is really unfortunate.
But he's down on Black Knight with no death, and the Enchantress is down on David's screen. He's on the Nightmare, which is a pain on this route because of how random his rails are.
David's basically going to be going for the grounded slash instead of air slashes, but the rails don't always allow him to do that. The grounded slash allows for far higher damage per second, but the random rails don't always allow him to do that. He missed the phase skip here, but he's going to be getting a pretty fast kill right now.
And that is time.
Jinx. That is time for David. 44-15. Pretty great time.
Yeah, especially in a race situation, that's a great time for sure.
So David is the winner. Now let's see how Wes deals with the Enchantress. He does have all 5 darkness upgrades, which is pretty interesting. Or all 5 meters of darkness. All 3 darkness upgrades. Going for the checkpoint. Good idea, especially in a race. He got quite a bit more initial hits than David did. Still not enough for him to go under the stage, but I don't think he was planning on doing that anyway, because that's a very dangerous strat.
It's nice for personal best attempts, but it's really scary in a race. Oh man! What is he gonna do here? He has to wait because he has no darkness.
Could go for a risk under the stage.
Wes.
So a bit of a risky move there, but he did get the hit. If he had missed that hit, he likely would have died. So now he is on the Nightmare Rhys fight, and he's going to have some extra bounding souls for this fight with the extra darkness. He's not getting the best rail patterns, and he is getting hit back a lot. Every time Nightmare Rhys hits the player, they're essentially sent back all the way to the back of the screen, so that can waste quite a bit of time. Those basketballs unfortunately missing. So now David on the final phase of the fight. After those 3 lanterns, he's on the final phase.
And that's time for Wes. 46, 42, or 40. Well, I think it's 42 actually. Really nice race from both of them. That was really good to watch.
Yeah, that was a relatively close race. Good job to both runners.
Yeah, those rails at the end can just make or break your attempt sometimes. Right. Looks like we're joined with David. How did you feel about that, David?
Kind of annoyed, really.
Congrats on the win, though.
I'll take it, I guess. It's a race PB.
Yeah.
Yo.
Wes
Wes
now
here?
also in the chat. What did you think of that run, Wes?
That was trash. As my good friend Explad would say, that was trash. Ugh. Yeah, that was over at the Propeller Night stage.
Yeah, I was like heartbroken when that happened.
Yeah, I've actually never died there ever, so that was pretty infuriating.
I died in the Bounding Soul Curio stage. I'm kind of annoyed about that one. That's the worst.
With your death and flying machine, Wes, I'm actually not sure if you even could have saved that with the skull miss.
Nah.
I think it was either take the death or take the missing skull, which could have wasted quite a bit of time in the future too.
Yeah, I don't know. It was one of those situations I'd never prepared for something like that, so I was just kind of like, up too late. So I had backup skulls if I missed a skull, but I was pretty uninspired after that death, as you could probably imagine.
Yeah, death and flying machine in a race can definitely be a mentality killer.
Yeah. So, yeah, you win some, you lose some. I lost this one, so congrats to David. You were the better Spectre. You were the better Spooky Mans.
Do you have any final thoughts on the race, David?
Not really. I just kind of hope I can get in a race without dying 4 times every time.
That's the dream.
So
Hey,
if
at
you
least
like,
it's a race PB.
yeah, pretty great. So if you liked what you saw just now and you want to see more Specter Knight races, on Friday at 9 p.m. we're going to be seeing Not So Newbie and JC87. The channel that it will be on is not scheduled yet. It'll be on one of the 3 speed gaming channels. So if you want to see more, that is Not So Newbie versus JC87 on Friday, October 27th at 9 p.m. And then after that is going to be on Saturday, the next day, 4 p.m. Oddbod versus Kenny. So those are both going to be some pretty good races.
Yeah, so again, congrats to David for the win. Nice race from Wes and David. Definitely follow them. Thanks to Feasel as well for putting this stream together. He's working hard to make this tournament happen, as well as Moo and a lot of other people just behind the scenes making sure this tournament happens.
So yeah, that's going to be it from all of us. Thank you all for watching. And thank you to everyone who helped put this together. And this will be Pika Pete and Brass Wolf signing out.